One thing about the Pope's statement that a lot of, e-Catholic celebrities, they were all fawning over this and they were saying, see, Nick, look, of course, Pope Leo's not for open borders. And I would say, well, make this distinction proper. There's two distinctions. One, there's a difference between Pope Leo and the USCCB. The USCCB has been notoriously pro-open borders. And number two, notice that there is no discussion amongst most Catholic commentators about the billions and billions and billions of dollars that the USCCB was taking from the federal government in order to acquiesce and ease the travel of many migrants into this country. They facilitated illegal immigration for years while simultaneously binding the consciences of the faithful and telling them that things like contraception were a problem, and taking this money that comes from American taxpayers and funding it to give contraception to illegal migrants.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Let's go to the Supreme Court. Nicholas Cavazos, in a stunning 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court has just handed President Trump sweeping wartime powers under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, allowing mass deportations of these gang members classified as an invasion force straight to El Salvador's mega prison. Whew. I mean, what do we make of this? The Supreme Court ruling in favor of Trump? What world do we live in?
Yeah, it's not surprising. I'm sure the USCCB is probably punching the wall right now, but it is what it is. What we do see, though, with a good immigration ruling like this is the further ramping up of potentially violent deportations, violent criminal deportations. Roughly, we have about 50 million illegals here. And of the percentage that are of actual, hardcore criminal nature, again, we have to remember all illegal immigration is criminal. You broke the law entering in to begin with. But these particular separate criminals that are doing lots of issues, these are the main focuses of this particular act that the founding fathers set up. And it's good to see the Supreme Court side with this. Now, the question, of course, will still be, will the left go out and protest the enforcement of ICE in the streets? We're seeing a lot of that. I think that you mentioned to me not too long ago, in fact, that a North Carolina bishop, I believe it's the same one that's been making everybody mad when it comes to Latin Mass stuff, is now talking about dispensing the Catholic faithful because of ICE. So he's pulling one of those things that I believe that they did in Los Angeles or somewhere out there in California, saying that we no longer need to go to Holy Mass. And this is, again, one of my points that I've been making on my show, which is the fact that the bishops are more concerned with the things of this world than the things of God. Their religion is ultimately, in many senses, not all bishops, hear me clearly, not all bishops, but some bishops are very clearly followers of naturalism, meaning they don't really believe in a supernatural God, because if they did, they would not be acting this way. They clearly care about leftist policies, and they shroud these leftist policies with a frock of religion, with a religious veneer, if you will. What we need to do as a society is support organizations such as ICE to get violent criminals off the street and to get all illegals off the street, because we have to remember that every job they occupy and every home they occupy is an American job, an American home by right.
You know, I talked about this briefly with Father McTagg yesterday. I was on with him. I'll be on with him later today as well. And one of the things that gets to me is, like, we go to confession, right? We go to the confession. We accuse ourselves in that confession box. It's our opportunity to not hold back. We have to be contrite. And then we receive penance for our confession. Because if we've done something wrong, we've ruined the relationship, killed God's grace, and we're truly contrite for it, we should want to make up for it. And yet it would seem like there's a sentiment among the hierarchy of the church, this letter from the bishop in Charlotte, basically dispensing of Sunday Mass obligations for this reason. It's like it seems to be counterintuitive and opposite to this principle of, if we're truly sorry for breaking this rule, this law, this relationship, then we want to make up for it. If you want to come to our country and you want to be a part of this great nation, then you want to learn the language. You want to assimilate in society and culture. You want to follow those laws. Don't you want the laws in the country that you want to live in? This seems counterintuitive. It seems counterproductive even. What would you say to that?
It is, of course, counterproductive, but that's the problem is that so many people assume that the migrants that are flowing across the border for the last 20 years are, in fact, the same type of people that showed up at Ellis Island back in the 1920s. And the fact is, it is not. They come from a different geographical location in the world, but also they see America as an economic hub to make lots of money and then to go back to their own nations and live in their equivalent of the first class. We have to keep that in mind if we're wanting to have a serious immigration discussion.
Did you see Governor Greg? You and I live in the great state of Texas, the People's Republic of Texas. And it's being overcome by I would say mass immigration is a problem in our state. And we're seeing it not just Hispanics coming across the southern border, but in Muslims in big ways. These Sharia courts that they've been setting up, sort of clandestinely subverting laws in Texas as well as federal laws, is a major problem. And the governor seems to be pushing back. But did you know that the second biggest religion in the state of Texas is Islam?
I was aware, and it's something that I've actually gotten into some hot water in recently because my diocese here in Central Texas, there's been people in the upper ups of the diocese who have tried to shut down my program or try to shut down at least my public teaching in a parish level specifically. Wow. For two reasons. The first reason, because I criticize mass migration. And the second reason, as they listed to me, I criticize Islam. Islam is a threat, and it's a threat to every civilization in which it comes into. Not only are the rights of women completely mistreated, but of course, and more importantly, they blaspheme the name of Jesus Christ by denying that he died on the cross and that he is not the Son of God. Right? These are major, major issues. And so I'm glad that Governor Abbott is pushing back against this, but I think we all have to remember this. The First Amendment of the United States of America, if one goes and reads the actual writings of the framers, if they go read the Federalist Papers, if they go read the Supreme Court cases about the First Amendment, they will realize that it is not talking about the right to worship however the heck you want and you can do whatever you want. The framers very much so had the mentality that this was a nation that was going to be Christian. Now, of course, for your audience, being a Catholic audience, it's not going to be good enough if you're one of the more hard die-in-the-wool trads. That being the case, the Founding Fathers would have not wanted in any shape or form for Muslims to come into the United States in mass numbers and built up massive enclaves. So I'm glad the governor is doing this, but a lot more needs to be done.
Yeah, a lot more needs to be done. His Holiness Pope Leo XIV was asked by reporters about the bishop's statements on immigration last week coming out of the USCCB fall meeting. And part of his statement, he said this: no one has said the United States should have open borders. I think every country has a right to determine who and how and when people enter. But when people are living good lives, and many of them for 10, 15, 20 years, to treat them in a way that is extremely disrespectful, to say the least, and there has been some violence, unfortunately, I think that the bishops have been very clear in what they said, and I think that I would just invite all people in the United States to listen to them, close quote, His Holiness Pope Leo XIV. I bring this up to say, do you think should we make any distinction of someone who broke the law 10, 15, 20 years ago versus just last year or last 2-3 years under the Biden administration? Is there a distinction to be made?
The only distinction I would make is that if you came in a previous long time ago, 15, etc. years ago, then you've had 15 years in which you could have become a citizen and are not a citizen. You've had 15 years now of occupying some American by rights home. You've had 15 years now of taking American tax dollars under the table and profiting by them. We have to realize, my friends, that it doesn't matter when you entered into the country illegally. It's still an issue. And it's not just an issue of you broke a law. It's an issue of you are taking resources away from Americans. One thing about the Pope's statement that a lot of, e-Catholic celebrities, they were all fawning over this and they were saying, see, Nick, look, of course, Pope Leo is not for open borders. And I would say, well, make this distinction proper. There's two distinctions. One, there's a difference between Pope Leo and the USCCB. The USCCB has been notoriously pro-open borders. And number two, notice that there is no discussion amongst most Catholic commentators about the billions and billions and billions of dollars that the USCCB was taking from the federal government in order to acquiesce and ease the travel of many migrants into this country. They facilitated illegal immigration for years while simultaneously binding the consciences of the faithful and telling them that things like contraception were a problem, and taking this money that comes from American taxpayers and funding it to give contraception to illegal migrants, right? So I can appreciate the Pope's attempt at trying to make a nuanced statement, but the reality is every illegal that is here is taking an American job, an American house away from someone like my generation, who by right needs to have those things, and at the same time is continuing to perpetuate a systemic problem, which is allowing people like the USCCB to continue to at least advocate for the return of their billions and billions of dollars and the continual furtherance of crime. I don't believe this stuff at all. There's so much more nuance to this that most Catholic commentators refuse to get into, unfortunately.
You know, we're going to run out of time here in just a second, but the other issue is, where are all the children, the thousands of undocumented minors that were encouraged to come across that border under the Biden administration, and then were released into who knows what and where? I've personally interviewed two of the whistleblowers on Capitol Hill about their personal firsthand witness involvement in the government's efforts to bring these undocumented minors and release them to unknown entities, some of them gang members, into the sex slave trade. Who knows where they are now? We have no record. We have no idea. And as you say, there was some complicit involvement on behalf of Catholic entities who helped to facilitate some of that stuff. Where is the statement about that? Like, why isn't that included in the statement? The lament for their role in that. If they'd have said that, I think we would all be going, at least they admitted it, right? Like, that's a step in the right direction, but they kind of just play this politics.
They play the politics because we have to recognize, number one, who is the vast majority of voters that identify as Catholic and how do they vote in the United States? The vast majority of people who identify as Catholic typically vote for, not always, but typically vote for Democrats. We also have to realize that because the USCCB has been involved with entities such as Congress, and we're clearly seeing with this whole Epstein vote saga, the beautiful morality that Congress typically has, we see that there's lots of corruptions on both sides. What we need is independent journalists, independent and impartial investigators to go in and audit the USCCB, as well as audit the federal government and see where have they been complicit and where are they innocent.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.